Welcome to the RealNex training series. Today we're going to be talking about the day in the life of a tenant rep with RealNex Navigator. The session will include a high-level overview of building stacking plans, corporate lease portfolio, prospecting for tenant rep assignments, creating a project for deal management, building your tour book, including our VideoMaker tool, and analyzing alternatives and closing transactions. Let's get started. First, RealNex Navigator includes 4 primary modules that you'll be working with. Our CRM for building your database of companies and contacts, property, spaces, and comps, setting up events and timelines, and managing your project pursuits. The deal management workflow will include project assignments, lead prospecting, client reporting, and project completion. From your CRM, you'll be able to use our Market Edge for underwriting and analyzing your lease alternatives. You'll also be able to use a RealNex Transaction Manager to create your tour book, engage in tours, get feedback from clients, and manage proposals. And finally, you'll be able to access the marketplace to seek out new listings that might fit your client requirements. To get started, you'll want to build stacking plans for the target market that you work in. You'll want to know everything you can about the buildings in the market area that you service, the quality of the buildings, the construction type, the age, and availabilities, as well as tenants in each one of the buildings. Once you have your basic building information in place, you'll want to add as much detail as you can about spaces to build your stacking plan. The easiest way to do this is from a rent roll that you can import directly into RealNex. Simply grab the rent roll in a spreadsheet, have it auto-mapped using the headers that we assign and that you can match to, and all of the information flows through directly into RealNex. You can also use your mobile device, your CRM app, to take pictures in the field and begin to build out your space profile within buildings. Simply take a picture, add units, and build up your profile on your mobile device, and that will be in RealNex. And if you do it through the import method or directly in RealNex online, that information will also be available in your mobile app. One of the great features of RealNex is its relational database structure. So spaces are not only related to properties, but they're also related to companies. So you can build your portfolio from a building, sort of from the ground up, or from a corporate portfolio if you're providing corporate services and handling properties across the region or around the world. Simply start with your company and add spaces to that company. And you can then work within the corporate hierarchy of that company, from the local company or office that you might be working with to the division, as well as to the global enterprise, and see all of the information about all the properties in that company's portfolio that you want to service. Another great feature of RealNex is the ability to set up a primary contact. Often people try to associate contacts with properties because that's who they're talking to, but it's really the company that has a relationship with the building. So you want to set up your company as the tenant and then use contacts as a member of that company that is the decision maker. Now, each company can have multiple contacts, so you'll want to set one of them as the primary contact for all of the corporate lease decisions that they have. That way, that contact will show up on all of the property records so that when you're prospecting, that person will be easy to find. Simply go to your company record, set up the primary contact, and that person would then be associated with all of the properties in that corporate portfolio. Once you have your property information with spaces and your company information with their lease portfolio, it's time to prospect for new business. Now, our filters will enable you to sort by any type of criteria that you might need to. In this example, we're searching by lease expiration. And what we'll want to do is send a letter to all of the companies that have leases expiring in the next year. Our great mail merge feature enables you to take any field in your database and customize your message for your solicitation. You'll see here we have specific information about the tenant's size and their expiration date, as well as their expansion interest. We can then see who opened the mail and who clicked on it and who has the most interest. That will enable us to go back and follow up very quickly on those best prospects. As we're talking to each of the prospects, we can gain even more information about their profile, what they're looking for, what they're doing, and hopefully engage them in a discussion to represent them. Once successful in engaging a prospect with interest in tenant rep assignment, you'll want to create a project for deal management in RealNex. Here in our project section, we will create a project for the Princeton office market by Mega Corporation, looking for tenant rep services to find 12,000 square feet. To manage the workflow of the assignment, we'll select one of our timelines for tenant rep. This will set up all of the steps that we need to take to successfully implement this process and make sure that everyone on our team is in line with the program and handling different components of the assignment that they need to handle for us. The first thing we'll want to do once we have secured the assignment and set up our process is begin to look for properties that meet the requirement. Here again, we'll use our filters in our property database to see buildings above 50,000 square feet in Princeton that have 10,000 square feet or more available. And there'll be a Class A office building for this particular client. This gives us 4 different alternatives to work with that we think are best, and we'll add them to the project table as leads. Now, just to be clear, when you have a client who is the tenant, the lead would be the building. So when you're looking at RealNex, the project here, you're working for Mega Corporation, but the buildings are actually the leads in this orientation. When you're working on a leasing assignment, the tenant and prospects would be the lead and the building would be the client. So we'll add in these various buildings into our lead table, and then we'll be able to manage and track them throughout the life cycle of this transaction. As you'll see in our dashboard, all of the events that we set up through our timeline, as well as all of the projects that we're working on, and all of the leads that we have are all consolidated for easy follow-up and to start our day as productively as possible. What we suggest you do each day is focus on all of your priority events and all of your most active leads to follow up very efficiently. Once you've identified the buildings, it's time to build a tour book. The RealNex Transaction Manager application is both an online portal as well as a mobile app that you'll be able to share information with your clients. Here we're going to build our tour. We'll add the buildings into the tour, select the people that we want to share with. That could be yourself, your teammates, as well as your client, and then begin to set up all of the information for that online tour. The RealNex Transaction Manager Tour Book creates an online tour book, a mobile tour book, as well as a print version if that's what you should desire. It easily creates a comparative matrix of all of the alternatives and detailed information with all of the supporting deal documents. What's great about the tour book is not only does it enable you to share information with your client very efficiently, but it allows your client to eliminate projects or properties that don't meet their need, as well as rate particular properties once you're in the field and they're able to visit them. In addition to the online portal, RealNex will create a hard copy tour book for you to use. Again, all the details are consolidated for easy use and distribution. In addition to the tour book app, you may also want to take advantage of our VideoMaker. With VideoMaker, we enable you to combine multiple scenes branded with your identity, with music and voice overview to take your clients on a guided tour of spaces without them ever having to leave their office.
Hello, I'm Guy Livingston and welcome to Pinnacle Square, a 33,000 square foot, single-story, concrete tilt office building.
Once your tours are completed, it's time to request proposals and negotiate transactions. In the RealNex Transaction Manager, you can request proposals from your landlord prospects and begin to enter that information into the transaction management system. You'll see that we do a quick analysis of all of the financial implications of each proposal and track them to see how they match up against one another. Each iteration is tracked, so the landlord made its original proposal with an effective rent of $27 a square foot. The tenant came back asking for a lot more TI and free rent, and then they finally settled on a middle ground point at $22.83 of net effective rent. Again, you see all the alternatives of the various different spaces that were looked at to determine which ones would be most interesting. And when you want even more details, you can take that information in our Market Edge for a comparative analysis of the rental opportunities. Here, much more details are available to begin to compare occupancy costs and balance sheet impact of each of the transactions. In addition to our tour book, we have the Tenant Rep comparative analysis capability in Market Edge with granular level detail about all of the cash flows and the expenses, as well as the various attributes of each of the property alternatives. As you move through the Tenant Rep process and have begun to narrow down your search, you'll find that the RealNex Project tab again comes into play. Here you'll begin to change the status of each of the spaces to knock a few out and focus in on those that are most interesting, and then begin to narrow it down to the final selection with your commission forecasting. And that's the day in the life of a RealNex Tenant Rep. We showed you how to build a stacking plan with importing spaces, associating those spaces to companies to manage a corporate lease portfolio, prospect for new tenant rep assignments, create a project for deal management, and build your tour. We also showed you how to take advantage of the RealNex VideoMaker if you have remote clients that aren't able to visit the property on site, or as a preliminary evaluation of multiple spaces. And then we were able to show you how to analyze alternatives and close transactions. You can learn more about each of these aspects in more detailed training sessions coming in the future sessions. Thank you for joining us for this RealNex Tenant Rep training video. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you need additional information about other aspects of RealNex, please visit us on our YouTube channel to learn about all of the different aspects of RealNex.